Hey, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce, since you cannot see my name on the display because this is my first time producing one of these, so this is going to be fun. But I am joined tonight by my boy, Juice. Juice, how are we feeling after a 3-2 Cubs win?
Dub City, man, as they say in Entourage episodes, victory! We'll take one. Yeah, it's good to finally get back in the win column. Did some good things tonight, and hopefully this is a trend. Hopefully tomorrow they'll take another one. And like we said earlier on in the season, 2 out of 3. It's all you got to do.
Absolutely, sir. 2 out of 3 is the key. And it would really just be nice to finally get 2 out of 3 for the first time since the Pittsburgh series that opened up the season. So that'll be excellent, especially against a Milwaukee team. And they got Jake going tomorrow.
Jake Day.
It'll be good, but we're not talking about tomorrow just yet, Juice. We're talking about today. And today we had, ladies and gentlemen, as we mentioned, a 3-2 Cubs victory. And in this one, let's be honest, if you just look at the box score, you'd be like, was this game even exciting? Yeah, it was exciting. It really was. It was a good game, and here's why. So starting things off with Kyle Hendricks getting scratched from this game. I think that's worth mentioning. With illness is what he's being deemed. And a win is a win. Or excuse me, not a win is a win, Juice. I'm so excited about this win. I'm so excited about this win.
Win is a win is a win.
I can't even focus on the fact that a win is a win is a win. I can't even focus on what I want to talk about tonight, Juice. But let's focus on the facts here. Kyle Hendricks scratched. Alec Mills told just before the game, hey, Pimp, you got to start tonight. And he had a great effort to begin this thing. Unfortunately, the only damage done off him, a Luce Urias home run in the second inning that gave the Brewers the early 2-0 lead. But from there, it was the Cubs coming all the way back, man. In the fourth inning, KB gets a well-needed flyout. I know to our boy Cody on tap, as well as you, sir. You guys love manufactured runs. So let's start there. How do you got to feel after they get some well-needed manufactured runs?
You know, I thought going into the game today, a huge takeaway was let's just put the bat on the ball, put it in play. And, you know, a lot of the guys in the lineup, I think, did that today. You know, while they struck out 10 times today, I did think the approaches at the plate were much better against Woodruff, who's a really good swing and miss pitcher. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had put up the stats that 53% of in the zone strikes that are swung at by are swing and misses. And that's one of the highest in baseball from this guy. He's a great pitcher. He's a guy to be that takes the ball and runs are going to be hard to come by. And I thought that in general, today's game was played right into Milwaukee's hands. This is what they're set up to. They're set up to have a lead going in late and throwing that bullpen out there that is, I think, the best in baseball. I don't think that there's a rival squad that's out there, bullpen that even matches up to what they can throw at you there. And I think JD said it best. You know, this one is one that they stole. You know, at the end of the year, when you look at the wins, like we said, a win is a win is a win, but this one just feels so much better because they beat Milwaukee at their own game in a lot of ways. And it was good to see some of the approaches. You know, obviously, you know, KB going the other way, playing, you know, manufactured runs. And I think a lot of the, you know, even Ian Happ, you know, going late in the game, they're just down 1-2. Let's just poke one through the hole, get on base. You know, we need more of that in this lineup. Mm-hmm. You know, those 2-strike swings. And I was listening to a lot of sports radio, a lot of podcasts, because it's just what I do. I drive for a living. And listening to a lot of these guys talk about, you know, working the ball and just giving up that pride. And a lot of these guys in the lineup, for at least like the last 4 or 5 years, just haven't given up that swing for the fences, home run or bust 3 outcome type deal that, you know, we've watched since, you know, 2017. And I think it's baby steps, but we know that Ian Happ is going to be a part of this roster moving forward. So for a guy like that, I think it's great progress for us to see as a guy who they're potentially going to build around and then decide which guys to pay after. You know, and by that I mean your Rizzos, your Wilson Contreras, your Javi Baez, Chris Bryant's. But to see Ian Happ kind of do that and not maybe become that 3 outcome guy where he can, you know, spray the ball around, I thought was a real teaching point for the game tonight. And it was good to see, you know, them just drop that approach of, hey man, let the dog eat on 0-2. You know, it's put the ball in play because, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that for the Cubs to be successful going forward, I think that's key. I think that while it's cold and in April, they're going to have to manufacture runs early. Play the long ball in June and July when it's 90 degrees outside. And, the wind's blowing out pretty much every day at Wrigley. And you can win some 8-7 games that way by playing in that, the bandbox that it turns into, when it comes to the summer. But for now, to keep floating, keep above the water, and just manufacture some runs, play good, solid baseball, hand it to the bullpen. And I think the bullpen's the hero of the game. Like you said, Alec Mills coming in, giving you 4 strong, only made one mistake and what's up with, Milwaukee shortstops? Like, you just kill the Cubs, man.
I know. I thought it was over when they got rid of Arcee and they sent him to Atlanta. I was like, good riddance. He's gone. Never have to worry about that ever again. No, this kid just does the exact same thing, and it's stupid. I agree with you. I don't know what it is, because even, back in the day, or just middle infielders in general, maybe from Milwaukee too, because like Ricky Weeks used to rake the Cubs back in the day.
Yep.
So it's certainly something to see. Our boy Cody Del Mendo, Brewers Twitter destroying his mentions. Cody will do our best to send you help.
Brewers Twitter exists. I
guess I didn't even know that
I didn't know all 15 of them were really active in Cody's mentions right now. Tough scene tonight for that crew. First of all, I know what Cody's referring to, because some large baseball guy named, I throw him out there, Jared Carabas, closet Brewer fan over there, talking about them throwing at Woodruff late in the game. Who cares? Willie running around the bases, giving the FU was great. After that, and I know I was watching Cody ratio all these people by putting that home run in their mentions after, which I thought was, Cody, props to you, brother. That's MVP style from coming on tap. And but yeah, all 15 of them are really at you, buddy. But hey, man, at the end of the day, you just got to throw them that box score, 3-2, baby. And let's get one tomorrow for Jake Day.
Yeah, definitely. And you led into perfectly, right? Because I think the Wilson Contreras homer deserves a little bit of analysis. And actually, I'm glad one of our listeners put this comment in, because I think it's very appropriate. The at-bat by Ian Happ was impressive, given how the Cubs struggle against Suter. They do. Absolutely. They really have a lot of struggles against Suter over, really just the last handful of seasons. So to see Happ work that at bat, put the ball in the right field the way he did, especially from his not so strong side of the plate.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. Being flipped around, that plays totally into Milwaukee's hands. And, man, like swallowing the pride, handing it to the next guy. It's something we talked about on Sunday. Just be the team guy who gets on base, because I felt so bad for the Cubs in this last game, because they're hitting home runs. A lot of home runs, but they're hitting a lot of solo home runs. Right. So work some walks, get on base, and then play long ball. It's not like the power isn't there to drive in runs on this team. It's there. And I know they only scored 3 today too, and they needed 2 of them off the long ball. But let's get some guys on base, man. Let's get some traffic.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then you could be creative. Then David Ross can do his thing, man. Show why he's a manager. Get some people moving. Some hit and run action. I think it's a whole different ball game for the pitcher and the defense when you can't just load up and shift and play. It's just a different at bat for these guys once you get people on and put some pressure. I think that the Cubs, in a lot of ways, when it's easy to pitch when you're not in the stretch and there's nobody on base, because the worst thing the guy at bat could do is hit a solo home run off of you.
Right.
It's and how often? How often have you seen back to back home run? It doesn't happen. It's not damage. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So at the end of the day, man, let's get some guys on base, work some walks. I think there was a lot of good progression tonight from the Cubs lineup. While the results weren't there, they were against a really hard thrower in Woodruff. Guy, it's tough to hit. And like I said earlier, that Milwaukee bullpen's tough, man. Yeah, they're real tough.
They're a good group.
It is. There's no cakewalk to score in these games. These Cubs games for the last couple of years these Cubs Brewers games just seem to be like the 3-2 types, the 2-1 types. They're very rarely high scoring. And if they are, it's usually one-sided. So, with that said, they stole one today, and it's great. And maybe this is something they could build on for the future. Let's go. Let's get on a little run. maybe win 7 out of 10, like I said on Sunday.
Yeah.
And let's see where this takes us, because it's baby steps. The Cubs are just got to settle down and let's just play our game, work the ball around. And then once it gets hot and the wind's blowing out of Wrigley, they can really play to their strength, which is the home run ball. This lineup everybody can take a deep pretty much.
Yeah.
So when it gets hot, I feel like the bats are going to really heat up, and that's when we're going to see the makeup of this ballpark. But until then, let's manufacture runs, baby. Just keep doing it. Play our baseball. Hopefully, the rotation can be as solid as they've been. The bullpen's been pretty damn good. So that's the formula to winning right now. And then once we get to the warmer months, we can start turning the offense up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, Juice, like we talk about right now, manufacture runs, get on base, be on for guys to drive you in. Hell, do that all season long, because like you said,
Sure.
when the weather does heat up in Chicago and the ball begins to fly a lot more out of Wrigley, why not have more 2- and 3-run home runs instead of just your usual solo shots that we've become so accustomed to as Cub fans? And obviously, I mean, let's just call it what it is. That Wilson Contreras home run right after Happ gets on was an absolute moonshot. I think they said it was 436 or 435 feet or somewhere in that general. No doubter. As soon as that left the bat, Willie with a little bit of the bat kind of throw, not even a flip necessarily, and he just kind of that little kind of swagger attitude after he hit the ball. If you haven't seen that clip, there's a great clip on the Cubs Twitter account, official account, of that angle where you can see Willie throw the bat. He wasn't feeling it. He got hit earlier in the game, intentional or not. I think that's something we can discuss here too, Juice. But, intentional or not, it was what it was. But he got the big home run. He gets to silence the Milwaukee Brewers doubters and whatever they call them, crybabies, soft. He wasn't soft on that play because he absolutely destroyed that baseball, and you absolutely got to love it. He comes through in the clutch, Chafin, nice rebound day, but still gets pulled after just 2/3, and then Craig Kimbrell comes in for the 4-out save to send the Cubbies home victorious. A well-needed victory. As you mentioned, Juice, now tomorrow is a rubber match, and they actually have a chance to take the series. But, Juice, we will worry about the preview here in a little bit. Let's talk about the hot topic of tonight's game. And it really was surrounding Wilson Contreras, and I think we can expand on that as a whole because he gets hit. I shouldn't even say he gets thrown at necessarily because, it's kind of freak. Yeah, maybe Woodruff wanted to throw him up and in to try and back him off the plate a little bit. That happens. That happens all the time. But just kind of a freak play. It catches him on the hand. He goes to first. Nobody was mad. Nobody was getting angry at that point. Willie wasn't happy about getting hit, but he wasn't, freaking out or anything like that. He just took it. He's patting, Keston Hiura on the back over at first base. It was just a very, I don't think really anybody thought about it. Like even Cubs Twitter, those were like, come on, Woodruff, like don't hit Willie anymore. Like, but that was the extent of it, right? There was nothing else to it. Well, then later, Ryan Tepera throws behind Woodruff. And for those that perhaps didn't see the camera in Woodruff's face, saying that's fucked up. That's fucked up. And you know what? Take it for what it is. Do we know Tepera was really thrown at him? I don't know. And that's exactly where I kind of want to go with this because, again, our boy Cody here, good question. Did Tepera throw at Woodruff on purpose? And, Juice, that's where I'll turn it back over to you to answer that question.
I think it's hard to – I don't think we'll ever know, right? I mean, but with that said, I can see both sides. I can see, Willie not reacting to the ball up and in, and I can see the flip of it. The Cubs are pissed off with how much Willie's been hit, and let's just settle it right here. But with that said, I think it's over. This should be it. I don't think that they're gonna they're not gonna try to throw at Willie tomorrow. I know that he did kind of pimp that. I actually tweeted that Statcast gave that one a 10 out of 10 for swag, and that's a pretty epic round of the bases. I mean the only thing he could have did that would have had more swag is if he moonwalked from all the way around or, flipped them off as he ran around the bases. But, with that said, I just think that it's over now. You even the score after they hit him, you threw it there, guy. And now Willie hits a 2-run homer to win the game essentially. And it's over. Put in the past. It's these teams are going to play so more often, and there's going to be it. I would be hard pressed to think that Willie doesn't get hit again within the next 20 some games or whatever 16 some games that they still have left to play Milwaukee. With that said, it is kind of weird. I think they had put up the stat that Willie had been hit more than any other player by one team in the MLB.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of odd. And like we said, I think on Sunday's podcast, Wilson Contreras is the Joakim Noah of, the Cubs in a lot of ways. If he's on your team, you like him. If he's not, you hate him. And he's an agitator. But the common theme with Willie and with Joakim was the heart. That's those guys showed up, they set the tone, and they gave you big plays. Willie over his Cub career has given you a lot of big moments.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways we forget about Wilson Contreras. I think that, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and Javi Baez a lot get the limelight, while Willie's, it's really hard to find a catcher who produces as much offensively and gives you so much defensively now that he's gotten better at framing. I think that's it's a lot of good that he's done on that side of it, because Wilson Contreras wasn't a catcher when he came up through the system.
Right.
This is a new position for him in a lot of ways that he's gotten better over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally, I think it's over, but it is weird. I think that when you hit somebody that much, and I understand that he stands pretty close on the plate, and the scouting report on Willie is to jam him in. I know it. And we've watched how many Cubs games where everybody tries to get it on his hands, just jam him so he rolls it over to short. But with that said, I mean, it's weird. It is a little weird, but I think now this kind of settles the whole score, and hopefully they go out tomorrow and just play baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I think I love that analogy, right, about Wilson Contreras and Joakim Noah kind of being that same player for their respective clubs, because it's kind of true. Wilson is kind of a polarizing figure a lot in baseball now. He kind of has the same way with Javi, because Javi doesn't have the same kind of fire, I guess, in terms of maybe, for lack of a better term, attitude that like a Wilson Contreras has. So definitely cool, to see Willie kind of take it upon himself. He takes the pitch off the hand. It is what it is. I'll get you back later. Instead of yelling at you and screaming at you, I'm going to do all the yelling and screaming by just throwing the bat as soon as I moonshot a ball up deep into your left field stance. So definitely well needed. And just to your point, right, about this team playing Milwaukee quite a bit over the rest of the season, they see each other in like 10 days again. They'll play the weekend of the 23rd through the 25th at Wrigley in a 3-game set with Milwaukee. The interesting part, though, is after that, then they don't see them again until like the end of June. So they go for a little while without seeing the Brewers. But again, seeing a team literally 3 times in your first 5 series, right? Did I do my math correctly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 series, somewhere in that general ballpark. First 3-4 weeks of the season. That's a lot. That's a lot. 9 games out of like your first 17. That's insane. So certainly, I fully expect Wilson to get hit with at least one more pitch before the month of April is over, if we're being entirely honest.
And against the Brewers too. I think it's going to happen. It's just the nature of his scouting report. Where he stands on the plate, what they want to do to him. And I get it. It sucks to get hit, and it sucks to get hit about by the same team as often as he does, but.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's over. I think now it's move on, play baseball, show him on the field. And I think, after they Tepera threw at him, I think Willie in a lot of ways turned the page and was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna pimp one here and beat him that way. If they're gonna keep hitting me, there's nothing I can do about it. My guy, and props if Tepera was thrown at him, props to Tepera for sticking up for your teammate. I know that's like a old, and that sounds very Cardinal-esque to me. I don't usually do that, respect the game, the rules within the rules. But hey, man, like you see it in hockey all the time. When you're getting beat or somebody takes a run at somebody, you're sticking up for your teammates. It's, and I think in a lot of ways that's maybe what Tepera did. But I don't know, it is what it is, man. Move on, try to get a win tomorrow.
Yeah, like you said, man, we'll certainly never know. And friend of the show, Garrett from Iowa, says if Tepera did in fact do that intentionally, he owes him a beer. So Maybe it's worth asking Ryan Tepera. Maybe we'll get an answer out of him, and somebody in the press will be like, "Did you do it? Come on, like you can tell us. It's cool. Like we're not going to publish that everywhere. We just want to know: did you do it?
I'm sure there's some, Chicago Sun-Times reporter or 670 The Score reporter who's going to ask if they really threw at him.
Of course,
and we're not going to get the right answer. We're going to get the, no, I let that one up and in. It was.
We're going to get the beat around the bush answer.
But hey, man, like, it's a true thing that like that dugout and the togetherness and having each other's backs. I could totally see it. That, if Willie, and I think it's really unstated that, Willie works with these guys so often. You know what I mean? Like if it's, Sogard who's getting hit out there 6 or 7 times, maybe the response isn't as, is swift, and immediate. But Willie, as a guy who works with all the pitching staff, probably knows those guys really well, considering with, how many bullpens he's probably caught for these guys and, working with them, those guys in pitch lab and things like that. So that's their guy, so in a lot of ways, I think that maybe they were. I don't know. As I keep talking more and more about it, maybe that was Tepera, sticking up for his guy.
Maybe.
But I don't know, man. I don't think we'll never know. So they won the game, and that's the most important thing to me.
Absolutely.
And if Tepera and Willie needed to fire up their team to pull this one out, hey, however they had to do it to make it happen. I don't care if Milwaukee likes you. I don't care if Milwaukee likes us. I would expect them not to. But win some baseball games. It's a rivalry. As much as some of us have downplayed the Brewers, and I have too. I think the Cardinals are the main rival for the Cubs, but the Brewers and the Cubs and the Cardinals have been pretty solid over the last 4 years. And while maybe the same players and aren't on those teams, it's still, when somebody steps into that locker room, what a division foe means. It's a rivalry. It's a big game. It's a game you get up for, and it's a game that at the end of the season, if you're chasing them or they're chasing you, these wins in April mean so much more. They're almost like 2 or 3 games. So
you almost get some of that kind of 2020 effect, right? Where it was like, oh, these games mean so much more because it's a shortened season. It's like, well, yeah, when it's your division foe, it's kind of the same approach. It's like, hey, these games truly do mean so much more because naturally, again, it's just like everything else, right? It's every other sport. It's, hey, you gain 2 games because you push them further down, you raise yourself up all at the same time. You're not requiring somebody else to help you out, or you're not requiring the baseball gods to do their thing. I know like a lot of Blackhawks fans tonight were scoreboard watching because the Predators and Stars are both in action, who are the teams that the Hawks are pretty much competing with for that last playoff spot. And the Predators are up early and everybody's like, oh, shit. But like, because you're like, come on, help us, Tampa. Like, we're not catching you. They're not catching you. Right. Go kick the shit out of them so we don't have to worry about it and we get some time to make up ground. Like, it's nice when you can take that in your own hands, I think is kind of where I was going with that. And it's just,
I thought it was great to, have our minute Blackhawks talk right there.
The mandatory plug,
a little minute 4 feathers preview.
It's a little bit. Yeah, no, there was an episode released today, Juice, and it was a good one.
Oh, plug it away.
GM Ron Luce put his hat on, and we went to town at that one because the trade deadline just passed. But getting back into this game too, Juice, like the other part that I just continued to be so excited about, impressed by, fucking Craig Kimbrell, man. Like he's doing it for me now, Juice. He's doing it for me, and I love it. And I get so fired up now when he comes into games. He's got the flow going. He looks good on the mound. He looks like the Craig Kimbrell of old. He's chasing records. Like, this could be like the Craig Kimbrell season that Cubs fans have finally been just dying for because he's get paid so much money to be your star elite closer. Well, right now, Juice, he's doing exactly that.
Yeah, it's almost kind of frustrating too, right? I mean, looking back at, the seasons that could been if we've gotten this Kimbrell – from the past. I don't want to dip into that. It's a brand new year, but I want to put a halt on, the whole trade deadline talk already. We've only been through 11 games now. What is it, 11 games now?
11 games and they're 5 and 6.
And let's just pump the brakes too. And I want to just, point to 2019 when the Tigers traded Sean Green. They traded Sean Green to the Braves, and they only received like a pitcher who was 21 years old with like a 5 ERA who's still sitting in Double-A. And I mean, I get 2020 different year, no minor league baseball, whatever, but and not even another top 30 prospect from the system of the Braves. So all this talk that they're going to get a huge haul from Kimbrel, I don't think that relievers get traded that way anymore. You look at what happened with like Chapman and them the Yankees getting Gleyber Torres. I just think that era's over. I think the idea of paying for premium for that guy when I feel like with these pitch labs and spin rates and maybe it not as mattering as much, it just kind of I think the reliever market may yield less in the future. And so let's pump the brakes on trading Kimbrel already and the value that he's going to bring. And let's just like let them play out, maybe more than 10 games, 11 games.
Agreed.
Let's just pump the brakes. But that was starting to see a lot of that. It's starting to frustrate me. But with that said, man, how great is it? I actually, in that 8th inning, I was like, all right, this is like the true test. Let's see what he's got. And, it's a division game, 1-run lead. Let's see what you got. This is the time where you make your – and I was about to tweet, I don't feel good about this. And then right away, just weak roll over to third.
Yep.
I'm like, shut up, Juice. Shut up, man. Like, and even like in the 9th, I'm all for robot umps now, man. Like this is getting freaking ridiculous. I mean, even like you talked about Andrew Chafin earlier, like, dude, he would have went through that whole inning fine. He got scared too. Yeah. And won at bat. Like some of this is just getting ridiculous.
It really is.
And I know, just to touch on, I know White Sox Twitter is losing it over like the MLB extra innings thing that's going on too. I think it's a crap rule, but it's a crap rule when you lose. You know what I mean? Like everybody's happy when you can get out of there without burning your pitchers, but it's a crap law. It's a crap way to lose. I do agree, but I understand the flip side of the argument. Who wants to watch 19-inning baseball games? I mean,
nobody.
Who wants to watch till 4 a.m? I mean, dude, we watched tonight's game, and we're going on midnight here on the East Coast. So it's not good for I think the viewingship and the timely. I hate it. I hate that they put a runner on second. But with that said, hey man, they got to get these games over with and get on. It's not like they do this in the playoffs. It's like the NHL. Right. I hate the shootout, but I understand why they do it. Because you can't sit there and play endless games on a Wednesday night. You just can't. And there's 162 of these that they got to get in. So with that said, hey, it'll probably even out over the case of 162, right? Yeah. The White Sox will win, or the Cubs will win one that they shouldn't have won in extra innings, and it'll even out over the case of the season. But it just kind of in the moment, it sucks. I'm with you. Yeah. I hate the rule too, but I'm gonna love it when they win.
Oh, of course. But like tonight was a good example too, right? There's a distinct pitch I remember early in the game when Woodruff was still pitching to Happ, and like this ball was a pretty solid like half a baseball off the strike zone on the outer edge, and they called it a strike. And I lost my mind because my dad and I were actually BSing, and I'm like, that is a horseshit call. And he goes, was it that bad? And I rewound it. And I was like, yes, it was that fucking bad. And he's just like, oh, he's like, yeah, you're right. That's a pretty terrible call. I'm like, yeah. And like my dad was a baseball player. So like, and he was a catcher of all things too. So like, if anybody's going to understand the strike zone, it's him. And he's just like, oh yeah, that's egregious. That's bad. And I'm like, they got to do something about it, And it's just like the MLB is going through such this interesting transition time right now, because like, you got to address these things that the fans just don't like. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to see. I don't mind the human error aspect of it. Like if it's a close call, but like some of them are just egregious to the point where you go, there is no fucking way in hell that unless you're blind or weren't paying attention, that should be a strike. That's where I have a problem with it, and it's just, it is what it is. Thankfully for the Cubs tonight, it worked out. They got the dub. Everybody's happy, but like you said, just, I understand the being upset with it, because it's just, that's how it's been playing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that Garrett put a comment in here about it being consistent. Woodruff was getting the calls early or the Cubs were going to get whatever. As long as it evens out over the course of the game, I'm okay with it too. But with that said, I mean, baseball in an even game like that, the late call of not getting that strike is, I think, just much more crucial. You know, the last 6 outs, in my opinion, I think the hardest ones to get, and it just matters on if what part of the lineup's up in the 8th and the 9th. And I felt bad for Chafin because he got shelled the night before,
right.
And then he comes out tonight, and I thought he made great pitches.
Yeah,
I thought he was pretty solid tonight, and it sucks, but they came out with a victory, and let's just say I think that Andrew got the short end of the stick on that tonight, and hopefully it means tomorrow or the next couple games he gets some calls he maybe shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I completely agree there, Juice, and I don't really have much more on this one. The only other thing. One quick comment: Cody believes the King deserved better.
He did. He absolutely did. He shouldn't have been embarrassed to walk out of there. He should have threw that last 3-2 with his mustache. Maybe it would have threw some extra spin rate on there.
Just stuck the ball on it real quick, and just like little sling of the face, and just watch that thing come flying in at like 115 miles per hour. And
he needs to come out in a Cubs cowboy hat like that, just in stirrups, like instead of like the whole Cubs get up with the whole like uniform. He needs to have like the alternate uni with a Cubs cowboy hat and like some stirrups and maybe like a gun holster.
That would be magic.
With like a revolver in there.
I also wouldn't mind like a flannel t-shirt that's like open, and he's maybe got like a tank top. I don't want to use the term on air.
Yeah. I know where you're going.
Being sensitive, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. And like jorts and like a pair of just like kind of country boots, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like, give me a pair of like all black Tim's type looking boots, and like he needs to have like a pipe, and it just and like a cowboy hat or something.
Yeah, and like a mustard stain, like on the wife beater too. Like just. We've gone on way too long with this.
That's okay. Well, our friend Garrett from Iowa is helping out here. Stirrups are for horses.
Spurs. My bad.
Yes,
my bad, Garrett. That's how city boy I am.
that's why our boy Garrett from Iowa is here to help us out, man.
See, there we go. That's how city I am.
He's got us covered. He's got us covered. But yeah,
that's how city I am, my friend.
Good stuff, though, from Chafin. I think overall, though, good rebound effort from Chafin, though. It's nice to see that. Obviously, the Kimbrel outing, sensational yet again. So, Juice, I'll turn it quickly back over to you before we look into previewing the next game coming up. What do you got on this one for your last thought? Yeah,
no, it's good to steal one tonight. I think the ones that the Cubs are able to steal always feel better throughout the year, right? 100%. Especially these fun kind of lives. It's great to come on after a Cub victory with how demoralizing the last couple of days have been, and the Cubs proved to you that they can win a baseball game, and that's I think that's huge. And now it's the question now turns to, can you stack them? Can you stack wins after stealing wins? Because that's tomorrow is the momentum's only as good as your next day's starting pitcher, and they have a great pitcher going tomorrow who's looked really solid. And Jake Day, baby, let's see it.
Jake Day, baby. It is going to be a good one. And yeah, I mean, I guess kind of just my last thought is really just like you said earlier, Juice. And this comment provoked it, so I want to at least just quickly show it. But Kazuna77 says, will ownership push for a sell-off, though? And I believe he was referring to the Craig Kimbrel talk about the trade deadline. It's 11 games. The Cubs are hovering right around 500. Let's put it into perspective. The crosstown White Sox, who are supposed to be World Series contenders, and I still think they very much could be, are also 5-6. Like, let's pump the brakes. There's still a lot of baseball to be played here. Still well over 150 games. It's encouraging that, God forbid, the team does suck. You have assets you could sell off to build for the future, but obviously none of us want them to suck.
And who's to say that this is like a full tear it down rebuild? I think the only way that they trade them is if they get the right offer. And I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but like you said, pump the brakes on it. But if they think that they can go out and make a couple moves to contend for the division, next year, let's say that the division winner only wins like 84, 85 games, and the Cubs win 80, and they're only a few wins away. You know, maybe just retooling on the fly is the move that they want to make. Because as we said on Sunday, get into the dance, spin the wheel, and see where it lands, man. Because that's what playoff baseball is. So
100%.
I think that a lot of this will be decided over the case of, you know, the first 81. And after that, we'll know with a clearer picture on what they're going to do. But with that said, man, like I hope that with how much money they're going to have to spend, and Joe talked about it on Sunday, that they're going more for the retool. Let's figure out which guys stick around. And I mean by your Chris Bryants, your Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo, Wilson Contreras. And after that, let's see what we could add to this team and maybe make it more contact oriented, you know, to give a little change in it. Because they're going to be close with pitching. You know, they're going to have a lot of young arms that are going to project towards the top of the rotation coming up. Yeah. So it's just a matter of, I don't think it's a long rebuild, but I do think that if they're out of it, ownership will definitely say, hey, what's the plan here? You know, where will we sit? What's the future going to hold for, you know, this group, plus, you know, the future for where we're going to go with this franchise in terms of, are we contending in, you know, 2022? But it's a question for, you know, the trade deadline, and we'll be able to answer that, you know, sometime in July, hopefully.
Absolutely. And I think a good example is just look what the Blackhawks did at the NHL trade deadline. I'm going to take that opportunity to plug Four Feathers podcast, which just released a show today. Go check it out. But, you know, like if the Cubs could do that, if they are in fact retooling, you know, you don't destroy your current state of the roster, but you build toward the future and you kind of tinker on the fly. Maybe that's an effective way. So Juice, let's put this one behind us. We'll enjoy it, though. It's a good Cubs win, but the Cubs are back in action pretty quickly, ladies and gentlemen. We're actually only about
12 hours.
12 hours, yeah, from first pitch. Maybe a little more than that. Maybe we're looking closer to 13.
It's like 13, but whatever.
But tomorrow, as we mentioned, the 5-6 Cubs against the 6-5 Brewers at American Family Field. Awful. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the first pitch is scheduled for 12:40 p.m. Central Daylight Time, so it is an early game, and it's an early game, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So, you know, if you got to work tomorrow, take your lunch break a little late. You can catch the full game uninterrupted early. If you're somebody like me who's just going to be plunked in front of the TV anyway, I'll be watching the whole thing, but that's neither here nor there. But as we mentioned, it is Jake Day tomorrow. Jake Arrieta is on the mound. He is 2-0 with a 2.25 ERA thus far this season. And going for the Brewers will be Corbin Burns, very good right-handed pitcher for them. He is 0-1, but he only has a .73 ERA, so he's just been screwed by lack of offense. Very good pitcher. Again, Milwaukee's got a great rotation. They also have a great bullpen. So not surprised, that it's going to be that kind of day yet again. It's going to be like that in all these games. But if you're watching the game in Milwaukee, it is on Bally Sports Wisconsin, and you can listen to it on 620 up in Milwaukee, which is like the Brewers radio network. And then Cubs TV, obviously Marquee Radio, obviously 670 The Score. But this game will be on MLB Network, so it actually will be viewable by everybody that has MLB Network. So it should be a good game tomorrow between Jake Arrieta and the Cubs and Burns and the Brewers. So, Juice, I will turn it over to you for just a quick preview before we get out of here, and would love your Fly the W player pick for this one tomorrow as well.
Yeah, kind of same kind of Brewer-esque, Cub-esque matchup that we'll probably look at, right? You know, Jake's been really successful. Burns got electric stuff, so it's going to be really tough to come around runs. Manufacturing. Get them on, get them over, get them in. Maybe play a little small ball. You know, maybe a little hit and run action is what is the difference in the game tomorrow. But I think both these pitchers are going to be on their A game, and it'll be tough for either team to scrap around, you know, a crooked number at any moment. Maybe it's the first pitcher that blinks and gets in a tough jam that either flips it. Maybe it's a momentum changer and the pitcher gets out of it, or you know, so a team's able to put up a crooked number early and then just cruise. I'm going to take Jake tomorrow. He's been so damn good. Yeah. And I think he's been so good without having his best stuff. I think he's really been working towards kind of putting it all together. And I think that with what we've seen from, the fastball and obviously the off speed stuff. He's been able to battle through his starts. While he's been really solid, he hasn't put a full Jake display that we're used to. I don't know if we're ever going to see that, dominant Jake ever again with the repertoire that he's working with. But
right.
I think Jake needs to keep his team in the ball game tomorrow, because with this Cubs offense scuffling, and I don't think Burns is going to give up, anything easy to hit around. Maybe the Cubs get an early run or two, and that's maybe Jake's kind of working with that, margin of error after that. But I'm going to take Jake Arrieta for tomorrow. And I actually think the Cubs win this one. I think they win another 3-1, 3-2 kind of ball game, take 2 out of 3, and then they head to Atlanta. Oh no, they come home. Actually, you know what? I'm going on Sunday. So
nice.
We'll hopefully they get a nice win, and I'll be there on Sunday for if it's a rubber match or they're going for the sweep. Hopefully that's what's happening. But like I said, yeah, I think Jake is the key. If he's able to have his good stuff and keep the Cubs in the game, and I think early runs and manufactured early runs are going to be the key for tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have much else to add. I think you nailed everything on the head for tomorrow's game. It's going to be a good one. Obviously, we're hoping for good things. I think the Cubs can absolutely come out on top. I'm just going to keep riding this dude as long as I can. I feel like Chris Bryant shows up and shows out tomorrow. I mean, KB just continuing to look like if we're being honest, if we're looking at the season again, I'm probably going to say this a lot this year as long as this trend continues. But if we're looking at these 11 games in a vacuum right now, KB is the only guy worth extending. And I know I might catch some heat for that. Well, what about Willie? He just had a great game. He did. He had a great game. I love Wilson Contreras. He also has another year of team control. So him, I'm not so worried about being extended just this very second. But if we're talking the Baez, Rizzo, Bryant crew, I know Riz is going to eventually come around, but Bryant looks like he wants to get paid, and it's nice to see. It's refreshing to see, especially after the horrendous 60-game sprint that he had in 2020, which, again, everybody sucked. We're not really worried about it. We look at that and just kind of go away.
It will go away.
Yeah,
a healthy Chris Bryant is a good Chris Bryant every year. I don't care what anybody says. So I'm with you, Ron. I think you ride that hot hand until he shows you different, and I think as long as he's healthy all year, I don't think he's going to show anything different. I think he's going to be the normal Chris Bryant that we've seen for, the previous 3 years prior to that. The MVP, the guy who shows up every day, creates runs, run creator, guy who can go first to third, does it all, plays, several spots. And tonight even showed it, playing the left field out there. He got a great jump on that ball in the 9th inning. It's something that you don't see from a guy like that who's a superstar, who's willing to play different positions, who can do so much for your ball club, and it's so understated how he represents the team too. There's so much pressure on him to be the face of it, him and Anthony, and they got 2 of the best that are the face of their ball club, who just, with everything Anthony does for cancer research, for everything, Chris does to grow the game. He has some fun. He's a real quiet guy, but he sets a great example of just loving baseball. Going out and playing and being the superstar who's in a lot of ways really humble. I think Chris Bryant is one of the most humble athletes we've seen in Chicago, and it's refreshing. I agree with you, Ron. Ride ride him while he's hot, man, because I think he's going to have a hell of a year. The Chris Bryant 2021 Revenge Tour.
Absolutely. I'm all here for that. And I love all the good talk about KB as well, because KB is and always forever has been one of my favorites on the roster. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this Cubs on Tap live stream. This will be going out as a podcast as well, in case you weren't able to catch it. But make sure you head over to ontapsportsnet.com, because we are the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can check us out at, once again, www.ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on all social media platforms. Then you can follow our specific podcast-related accounts at Cubbies on Tap, so that's Cubbies on Tap, on both Twitter and Instagram as well. So check out all our great literary and podcasting works over at all of those locations. And the On Tap Sports Network, go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was fun. We hope you enjoyed. From Ron Luce, from Juice, let's get out of here the only way we know how to, my guy.
Let's go Cubs.
Let's go Cubs.